Hi, fam. Welcome back to another episode of New Earth Rhythm Podcast. I felt the urge to jump on here while I have a few minutes to myself, baby sleeping. We got some time, and I was feeling called to do this short and simple and sweet self-reflection of the last 2.5 years of Saturn in Pisces. Now that we are crossing the threshold, Saturn at the 29th degree just moved in to Saturn in Aries at 0 degree like today. And I just want to reflect on that because, oh my God, I just see how it has shaped me. And I just want to share my own personal story. If that's something that's going to resonate with you and help you kind of understand how it's showing up in your own life, then I'd love to jump on here and share. All right. So, 2.5 years ago, I had a miscarriage and it shattered me, like dropped me flat on my face. I hit absolute rock bottom because it was almost like in that moment, my rose-colored glasses have flown off my face. All of my illusions were shattered about how I was moving through life. And I was all about like manifestation during that time and like owning my personal power as a manifester. Like I was obsessed with being a manifester in human design and moving through life, like initiating and putting myself out there and making an impact and just like go, 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 do, do, do. I was like really, really coming into my power. And when I got pregnant, I put so much emphasis on that pregnancy, thinking that it meant that I was exactly where I was supposed to be, doing exactly what I was supposed to be doing, that I was ready to move into this stage in my life of maturity and elevation and literally like become the mother, the woman of my dreams. And so I laid so much emphasis on this pregnancy. And so when I had my miscarriage, it just shattered me to my very core. I almost had like a form of spiritual psychosis in that moment because I lost trust and faith in myself, started to question everything I had ever done. And I started to feel like disgusted at myself for thinking that I had any control over this life. And I started to really question all of my decisions and actions and how I built my life as like a house of cards on really rocky foundations. And so I know that the miscarriage, it happened right after an eclipse too. So it was fated. Like it felt so destined and fated that I needed to have this miscarriage. And I had to like pick myself up and dust myself off and take a real harsh look at the reality that I had constructed and take full ownership and responsibility of the house of cards I had built and the rocky foundations that I had built. And just like it was the hardest pill I had to swallow, and I just had to accept it. And it was right at the time of the completion of my Saturn return. So the few years prior to that, I had been like 100% committed and devoted to creating a life that was in alignment with my highest calling, with my highest vision, with my soul's truth. And I was just making like leaps and bounds to make that happen without doing like the hard, disciplined, devoted, daily actionable steps to build and to create something to last, to take inspired action on my creativity and the urges that I got. um I would have these like crazy visions and then I would journal about it, and then rather than acting on that vision by taking a small step of like creating something or building something for my business, for my greater vision, I would just sort of like integrate that experience and then move on to the next one and the next one. And I was literally so ungrounded. Like I was living up in the clouds. And I am a Pisces sun and my Saturn is in Pisces. So this is why this might all like start making sense if you're into astrology. You can see how I needed to fall on my ass to learn how to stop just dreaming and envisioning and imagining and feeling and like manifesting. And I had to learn how to fall on my ass so that I could build things in the material world, in the physical world, something solid to last, something worthwhile, a legacy in the physical world. I was like up in the higher realms, never grounded. And it took the miscarriage to knock me on my ass. So after I like brushed myself off from the miscarriage and allowed myself to mourn and grieve and feel all the feels, that was like the biggest initiation of my life, the biggest transmutation of my life, the biggest alchemical process of my life that literally catapulted me off into a new timeline. I was like, okay, time to do things the right way. And that's right when I got on TikTok, because I realized that I was holding back so much, my fear of being seen, my fear of being judged, my fear of being made fun of from like childhood wounds, high school wounds, college wounds. I had been like preventing and holding myself back from showing out online. And that to me was a part of building my structures, because every single day that I made a video, that was my art, that was my creation, that was my wisdom teaching that I put out there every single day, like building a community one by one, brick by brick with every video that I made. It was me doing things the right way, building a community the quote right way for like the first time in my life, knowing that nothing is just going to magically fall into my lap and no one's just going to hand me the opportunity of my dreams. No one's going to hand me a community. You have to do the hard work. And that's what I started doing. So I'm showing out every day. I'm making my TikTok videos. I'm building my audience. I'm building my team, not my team. I'm building my community. And then that's when I start making all of my assets for human design. I make my guidebook. I like sit down every single day at the cafe and I'm on my computer for hours writing, working, make all my assets for human design. And by the way, then I got pregnant again 2 months later. And I'm seeing this now as like, okay, let me just trust the process. Let me stop putting so much emphasis on this. I cannot control it. I just have to surrender my will over to God. I have to trust in God's plan, trust in God's timing, stop trying to force things, stop trying to control everything. Let me literally take my life day by day. Every day I would follow my urge, whatever I had an urge to do, whatever I had an urge to create, whether that was to talk about human design or talk about energy work or talk about the chakras or talk about the elements, talk about the gene keys, or I had an urge to talk about archetypes or astrology. Like that's the MO of a manifestor. You trust and follow your urges, whatever I had a desire to do. Boom, I sit down and I am committed and devoted to taking action on that vision and bringing it forth in the material manifest world. So that entire pregnancy, 9 months, every day, I was at the cafe working. I wrote my book, Vitalize the Chakras of the Earth, End of You. During that time, I wrote all of my guidebooks for human design, for the gene keys, for Ayurveda nutrition and holistic health, and like my cleansing guidebooks and everything that I was passionate and excited about. I finally was doing the quote right way by showing up every day with discipline and devotion, because that is what Saturn was asking of me. And during this time, that's when I really developed my spiritual gifts, like my true intuition and my discernment and my psychic abilities, my ability to feel everyone's emotions, pick up on people's thoughts. All of my spiritual gifts were being like refined during this time. And I was learning how to blend my spirituality with my practicality. But I was still, like I said, I'm a Pisces and my Mercury is in Pisces. The way that I feel and act and show up in the world and like my inner monologue and like my inner MO and my lens, my perspective on the world, it's always from this spiritual perspective. And so while I was showing out every day, putting my assets, putting my creations out there, I legit never had any clear strategy when it came to building a business, committing 100% to being essentially a life coach, a motivational speaker. I never had like a clear strategy of like, okay, I'm going to follow these metrics. I'm going to, post this amount of times a day. I'm going to show up on Instagram and post this amount of time a day and engage with people this way and have like a code word that people DM me and then a strategy to interact with them so I can convert them into clients. I literally never had any clear strategy. Like I had the devotion, I had the will to do things the quote right way. But still, I was lacking clear strategy when it came to my professional endeavors and being an entrepreneur that others could take seriously, that I could take seriously. And so I'm still learning, Saturn and Pisces was still teaching me the hard lessons of blending my spirituality with my practicality. I was still believing that all I had to do was put my creations out there and that they were going to be magnetized to the right people who were just going to like be dying to work with me, be dying to be my clients, my one-on-one clients, and to join my transformational online journeys. And it was working. And I started doing work in person too in Vancouver, hosting workshops. And it was working. I was manifesting people, I was magnetizing people, but not in the way that could elevate my game as, like I said, an entrepreneur that people could take seriously, someone with a huge following, not just 60,000 people, which I'm very grateful for, 80,000 followers on TikTok, but why not like millions, right? Like I was still capping myself because I was lacking the clear strategy to move forward as um, a very disciplined and devoted and mature and responsible entrepreneur. um and these were the hard lessons that I had to learn during this time. And this is what started to come into clarity for me as of recently, like the last few months, as I'm like feeling into this shift, as I'm feeling into this energy of Saturn getting ready to move into Aries, seeing how I've been showing out online, knowing that I need to shift and do things differently to really be successful, to really make the money and tap into the prosperity that is going to help me reach my highest goal, because that's what it's all about. It's not about wealth. Wealth is like stockpiling money and it's like stockpiling resources. Wealth is like very ego masculine, like almost like shadow if you think about wealth. But prosperity is a universal flow that you tap into when you're living in alignment with your God-given gifts, with your natural energy, and naturally you will tap into prosperity, because that is what fuels and funds you reaching your highest vision and your fulfillment. Because in order for me to reach my highest vision, which I write all about in my book, Vitalize, the Chakras of the Earth, End of You, like I have this higher calling to go travel the entire world to the chakras of the earth, the most powerful energy vortexes, the most spiritually charged places on earth. That requires funds, that requires a team, that requires an audience, that requires proper equipment, that requires money, like lots and lots of money and resources. That is the prosperity that will come to me when I'm fully living in alignment with my truth, with my authenticity. And I do need to be extremely wealthy and prosperous and abundant to reach my highest visions. But that's not the goal. That is a natural byproduct of me living a life of purpose and sacred service. God wants all of us light workers, all of us alchemists, all of us just like normal people who just want the best for our families and for Earth herself to be rich, to be wealthy, to be prosperous. God needs us all to be rich and prosperous, because then we can have a bigger impact on the world and on Earth herself. But that's not what we should be chasing. We should be chasing alignment, purpose, and sacred service. And then you naturally unlock your prosperity. And so that's what I've been learning to do the last cycle of Saturn and Pisces, is doing things the quote right way, doing things brick by brick, step by step, like army crawling in the mud, doing the hard work to build a rock solid foundation that I can build upon, my legacy to last, so that I can, really pop off and be able to handle and hold all of the prosperity, all of the responsibility, all of the people in the tribe, in the community, all of the energy of my clients, and of my wider reach, be able to hold all of that required a rock solid foundation. And that's what I had just been learning. And so here's the cool thing. So, also I'll share this at this too. It all came to a head. Like I'm staying at my parents' house right now with my baby. We're here for like 5 weeks. It's amazing. I am so happy. I got my New York sweatshirt on. And like I said, I'm a Pisces. My head's always been in the clouds. I've always been very spiritual, and that's my lens in life. And my mother is a Virgo, who is my polar opposite. And I've always said that she is my rock. She keeps it real. She keeps me grounded. She checks me, like reality checks me when I try to run off with my crazy plans and visions. She's the first one who says, like, who brings me back down to earth. And in her own way, like the way she said this to me, it really like triggered me. It like rubbed me the wrong way. But I know that I needed that reaction to get to the root and really understand that she is actually right and that I do need to make a massive change. So it took her saying this to me, like she just blurted this thing out to me and it rubbed me the wrong way so much that it caused this emotional reaction. Like I started crying and we had to like get into it and let it all come up to the surface to get to the heart of what really lies underneath. But essentially, she was trying to tell me that I would be reaching so many more people if I toned my spiritual shit down and just made it more digestible to the average person. Like all of my videos on TikTok and on Instagram, they are from this lens of being like this spiritual warrior, because that has always been my MO. Like that is what is natural to me. And I have created an online community of people that are very spiritual and perhaps they're on the path of like a modern Gnostic, like drawn to learning all of these ancient wisdoms and systems, finding the unifying truth that is woven through in within all of the greatest teachings of the ages, all of the religions, finding that unifying truth, and then embodying that true ancient truth and essence and wisdom in this day and age and trying to blend that with innovation and ancient wisdom to, usher in the new earth and take the middle inner pathway. These are the people that have been magnetized to me because we're all in the same type of flow. But I don't want to get myself in a box. I don't want to cut myself off from reaching millions of people because my language is always filtered through my Pisces lens of being deeply spiritual, my esoteric mystical lens that I have been creating and writing and sharing and speaking through my whole life. And especially the last 2.5 years that I've really built a platform. And even like this podcast, that's the way I speak. That's the way I filter. That's the way I am sharing how I'm perceiving the world and the emotional wisdom that I gained through my life experiences. It is through this mystical, esoteric, spiritual lens. And what my mother was trying to tell me is that I have such powerful messages. I could help so many people. I could reach so many people if I chilled out on that. And at first, that really triggered me because I'm like, you know what? I'm being my authentic self. People are afraid to speak their truth. People are afraid of being judged or being made fun of. And I've been working through that. I've been trying to get through that. Like, I should not change who I am to be more digestible to other people. And then I'm realizing as I'm like fighting back and like my ego is trying to like save myself and like save and protect my journey, that she's like deep down that she's like 100% right. And that's actually a big shadow with Saturn and Pisces, is that we're finally learning how to blend our spirituality with practicality. And this might not apply to you. This might not, if you have a lot of Pisces in your chart, maybe you are really resonating with what I'm saying. If not, maybe you're just gaining like a new perspective on someone else's spiritual path, someone else's journey in life of becoming an entrepreneur. Becoming an intuitive entrepreneur is learning how to blend and merge your spirituality with practicality, which is something that I had like literally been missing. I've been missing that practicality approach. I've been missing that language to reach the masses. I've been, like putting myself in this box. And so that is the ultimate lesson that I feel I have finally like shattered the illusion on during this last cycle of Saturn in Pisces. And so now Saturn is in Aries, right? So what's important now is that we don't get caught in ego traps, because Saturn in Aries, it is all about like initiating and following your highest calling, having such self-devotion, like full stop, devoting yourself to your dream life, to your authenticity, to your highest calling, no longer compromising, but being so devoted to your authenticity, to your truth, putting yourself out there, being seen, but not letting it be your ego and not getting caught in ego traps and not forcing things through and not rushing things and not trying to like rapidly manifest and like go do like let it pop off, let's go like we're learning how to have extreme patience and extreme trust and how to make decisions that are actually aligned with your highest good rather than rushing and forcing and feeling like your ass is on fire and like you have to do things at a certain time. or like you have to be on all the time, or like you have to work so hard every single day. It's like we're learning actually how to trust in Earth's rhythms, how to trust in your own unique energetic rhythm. Look to your human design for that. How to make decisions in alignment with your unique way of making decisions. Look to your human design authority for that. How to move through life that is natural to you. Look to your human design strategy for that. And ultimately, how to put yourself out there, how to follow your path, because that is ultimately what's going to benefit your family and your community and the collective, without getting caught up in ego traps, and learning how to be patient and not so hasty. And then here's like the other beautiful thing is, so Saturn is moving into Aries, and we're learning so many amazing new lessons about maturity, patience, trust, and confidence, and self-love and self-devotion. And we're also getting, Saturn's also going to retrograde back into Pisces. So just because Saturn's moving into Aries, boom, it's like setting us up in a completely new 29 and a half year cycle. We're in a completely new book of life with completely new energy. We're going to try out this Saturn and Aries energy for several months. And then Saturn's actually going to retrograde back into Pisces for a few months. Then it's moving back in Aries for a few months. Then it's going back into Pisces for a few months. And then it's finally going back into Aries. So the next like year and a half, 2 years, Saturn's still going to be moving back and forth between these energies. And I think there's such amazing divine beauty in that, because like I said, all of like those hard lessons and hard pills that you had to swallow, and also all of those amazing gifts that you gained with Saturn and Pisces, you get to integrate that and completely move forth with your full conscious awareness, your discipline, your devotion. Now with this Aries energy, which is very fiery and beautiful, and following like your burning heart's desire and putting yourself out there without any fear. It's all about like planting new seeds with zero fear. But then we also get an opportunity to revisit the gifts of what Saturn and Pisces had to offer, now that we have gained the wisdom of that entire time of Saturn in Pisces. So you get to revisit it with your wisdom, with your elevated understanding of that energy, and like pick out the gifts, pick up the juiciness that is now on offer. Now that you're able to take it in, now that you're actually able to use it, now that you've gained that clarity and that conscious understanding, and integrate it again, blending your spirituality with your practicality, using your spiritual gifts in a really powerful way in the physical world, and then integrating that and moving forth with Saturn and Aries. So I just think it is so freaking cool. What a time to be alive. I have learned so much. Like I feel like a completely new version of myself. I feel like a new human. I'm learning emotional maturity. I'm learning responsibility. I'm learning clear strategy, devotion, and will coming into full resonance. Still committed and devoted to being my most authentic self 100%, following my strategy of, trusting in my emotional process and gaining wisdom from my emotions, and then initiating when I feel that urge and that divine call to initiate, and then resting when it is time to rest without feeling like my ass is on fire and like I have to go and do if I want to be successful, but fully trusting in my unique energy, my unique rhythm. Stop forcing things, because I will get sick. I will burn out if I force things. I also learned that the hard way these last 2.5 years, especially through motherhood. All the ways I forced myself through with sleep deprivation, and how it literally caused me to burn the F out. So learning when to rest, when to sleep with zero guilt, without feeling like I have to rush and go and do in order to keep up and keep the momentum going, but trusting in my unique rhythms, my unique energy, working in harmony with Earth's rhythms, with the sun's rhythms, and doing things the right way and having utmost self devotion. The discipline comes from self devotion. Like you love yourself so much. You want the absolute best for yourself because you know that when you personally are thriving, your family will be thriving, your friends will be thriving, your community will be thriving, the collective will be thriving. That's what this is all about. So it is so beautiful. You guys are so beautiful. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being here. We're starting Activate the Creatrix Within. This is a 4-week program on May 29th. We pushed it back a week because we want more people involved because this is so juicy. It's all about harnessing this new energy that we're in, learning how to work with your unique rhythm, learning how to take your burning soul's desires and your visions and your ideas that have been gestating within your highest visions, gestating from that last cycle of Saturn and Pisces, and really birth them and bring them forth in this new era, this new paradigm we're in a way that is so divinely timed, a way that is harnessing each moment so that it's going to just amplify your projects. And so it's all about sitting in sacred circle, regulating our nervous system, removing energetic blocks and limitations so that we can set our heart on fire and live a life of authenticity and creativity, and do so in a sacred circle, with decrees, with goddess activations, with embodied dance. It's all about alignment, embodiment, and sovereignty. So join us, okay? It's only $299 for 4 weeks of 4 powerful activations and a sacred circle. It's going to be juicy. It's going to be fun. It's going to be transformative. It's going to be powerful. You need to join us, okay? So send me a message, send me an email. I'd love to get more info over to you or read about it on my website. And please join us. So may this new cycle bring you such peace and ease and inspiration and prosperity and purpose and sacred service and community and sisterhood. And I'm sending you guys so much love. All the best. I love you. You rock. Goodbye.